Whenever I cook for someone for the first time, I always rack my brain on what to make. It's stressful. And yet every time the answer is steak. Because all it takes is 15 minutes and 4 ingredients to make somebody love you forever. See, to me, steak is something that is really easy to make amazingly. Steak is really tasty, especially if it's a good piece of steak. But at the same time, it's also really easy to screw up. And when I say easy to screw up, I mean you have seconds before it gets overcooked or maybe even undercooked if you don't like it medium rare or rare. Although, let's be honest, the right answer is medium rare. Now the method I'm gonna show you is a technique that is kind of the industry standard in the restaurant world. When you go to a restaurant, they're probably gonna be either pan roasting or just searing off a steak in a pan and then basting it with butter. But it is the timing and the way that you do it that makes it great.
First things first, let's talk about what kind of steak to pick. You want to make sure that your steak is thick. And when I say thick, I mean 3 C's. In other words, you want to make sure you're getting a steak that's 1.5 to 2 inches thick. If you go any thinner than that, then you're probably going to overcook it before the outside is properly browned. Now there's so many cuts of steak. To me, the king that deserves the crown is the ribeye. That's just my personal opinion. Plus, if you take 2 ribeyes and put them together, it makes a little meat heart. Perfect for a romantic dinner or Valentine's Day, you're welcome. But if I had to give you guys a list of what you should be using, T-bone, sirloin, strip, and ribeye, those are my top picks. Now for the most important tip I'm gonna give you, let your steak come up to room temperature before you sear it off. I cannot stress this enough. If you do not let it rest, it is not going to get that nice, even, super crispy crust on the outside, and it's gonna be gray. A lot of people skip this part because they don't think it's important. I'm here to tell you that it is very important. So yes, pull your steak out of the fridge and let it rest. Give it a little blanket, pull out the Noma fermentation guide, read it a bedtime story, and let it rest. Now we're ready to cook the steak. If you're still here, thank you for sticking around. Take a medium to large size skillet and bring it up over medium-high heat with about 2 tablespoons of oil in it. Make sure this oil is a high smoke point oil. Now while that's heating up, pat your room temperature steak with a paper towel just to make sure that it's dried off, and season it very generously with kosher salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Don't be too scared to go heavy on that salt. This is a thick steak and it's very sad when you get an under-seasoned steak. Now for the moment of truth. Once your pan is rip-roaring hot, you're gonna add your steak. Now the way you can tell that it's hot enough is the oil should be shimmering and moving around the pan really easily, and it should be just about the smoke. More importantly, you should hear this sound. Now, if you're like me and you like your steak medium rare, then you're gonna sear that bad boy at that hot temperature for 2 to 3 minutes on both sides until you get that nice crisp brown crust. Now, I'll talk about temperatures in a minute, but when you flip that steak to sear the other side, let it sear for about 30 seconds to a minute, then add 4 tablespoons or 56 grams of unsalted butter, 2 cloves of garlic lightly crushed, left in their skins, and 1 bunch of fresh thyme. Let that butter melt and baste the steak over and over for a minute or so until you've reached the desired doneness. This is the other secret to good steak. Baste and baste and baste with butter. There is nothing that can go wrong with that. Make sure to keep a close eye on that internal temperature so you don't overcook it. You know, you can do the touch test if you know it, but if you don't know it, then the internal temperature you're looking for medium rare is 135. Now, as soon as that steak is done, immediately take it out of the pan, place it on a cutting board, and pour all that sweet butter and juices on the top. And then let it rest for 5 to 8 minutes before cutting into it, and you've got the most amazing steak of your life. So yes, the answer is that simple. And if you follow these guidelines, you too can become a steak master. But before that happens, we've got one more set of B-roll.
Guys, and that is it. Steak. Well, that is it. Steak. Right now I'm developing some baguette recipes, some sourdough baguette, and I feel like that's something that's gonna be right down your alley. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not down your alley. Maybe it's on like a crossroad that's like not a part of your alley, but like it's nearby, like it's okay. And also be sure to check me out on Instagram. There's a link below. Click it, check me out. Love you, smooches. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe. I'm sorry. Please subscribe, okay? I love you. I'm doing this for you.